Let's check the journal. Ow, cat, stop biting me. Luke was seen attending career day at St. Grady High School for his goddaughter, where he met Rebecca again. Minutes later, a sobbing Kylie interrupted their conversation to report a friend crying in the little girl's room, who turned out to be the apparition, and Kylie definitely is possessed. And that was it. Apparently, ... The tremors continue long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances, as if teenagers pay attention, right? Every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. Bravo to them. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort, and apparently she has. Well, I mean, what else is going to be leafy and green and in a jar like that, right? Although that looks less like tea and more like alcohol. Or is this the 5th? Egad, why does counting matter now? It doesn't matter, just consume. The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something, that I need to talk to someone. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some sort of lapse in my part after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a centuries-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What is that, cleaners? I can't see their names. Oh well. Jablo. I can see that one. Jablo. Ina, Yang Lloyd, and Caesariza. Okay, whatevs. I'm not even gonna try to read who's been noisy. One of my Da's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb, or hell, there's even that one story about a demon baby. As if all babies aren't demon babies. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days. And by demon babies, I mean shit demons. They're just poo demons, just poo everywhere, and it reeks horribly. Personally, I don't like it. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank. And it isn't even oh wait, it is October, is it? Oh my god, it is October! I think today's the 26th, so everything's happening a little quick over there. This game.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
A terrible thing, if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Gods, will you not? Cat? Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Obviously, it has to be familiar because she entered the name herself. Marianne McCulloch. I butchered that, but okay. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember where I've entered this person to my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eye zeroes in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end, she's given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2 depending upon how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated, especially with this goddamn apparition haunting me. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere, the next, then someone suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another, and then an apparition. Days later, a friend stops showing up in her flat, right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything. Excuse me. Anything and merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, just in time for some afternoon delight. I think that's what it's called. You know.
Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
A date, yes.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
Show her around. Show her the sights between your thighs. It's a peculiar question to ask to someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
I can barely understand her. If it wasn't for the text, no.
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected it'd lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about it now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is...
There's a ghost. Just say it.
Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this. It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things.
Okay, now, Rebecca, it's your turn to share. See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Research those thighs.
Well, all right. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
By getting completely smashed, right?
My lips will be sealed.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop. That was too easy.
Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners?
Good question.
Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
Oh god, right in the middle of a yawn. I do my best to give her a concise summary from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had it built. Up to the point it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished even, and then they would have found the sex dungeon. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish. Oh yeah, that's right. Marianne ended up in the sex dungeon. Oh, Marianne.
That's all there really is to it?
As far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
Oh, excellent, Rebecca. Your turn to share. My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of.
Oh god damn it, Rebecca. This was a moment, a chance, an opportunity to connect with someone else experiencing some weird shit.
What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in light of what little I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine. I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Oh, but gods forbid you talk to anyone about it, huh? Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this, like what? All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusion can be formed with what we have, and if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to those stories. As absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I just can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. Oh, he's been waiting for her. Or he's just incredibly creeped out by all the faceless kids in the background. However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. I mean, I would hope there is. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy, you've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand, about to grab her. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. This child act of hers is just too acting. She's not real. She's a mass hallucination, right? Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tia said it'll be his treat.
Oh, what kind of treat?
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously on that department if they aren't gonna shoot each other. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however, half-heartedly, given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me. See? The perfect wing girl.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence. And for a second, I'm spared from the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Oh. Hey, Becca. I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Just the usual. He's hooking up with someone on Grindr. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabel is ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket. But, looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. The godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie, From his actions alone, I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that, still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. Oh, gods. Well, awesome. You know what? I don't know. Let's just go with Kylie. Let's check that relationship update. Wow, Luke really liked that. In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse, a sudden call from a friend, or things to work on. It doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quick or quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Teal doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
The sex dungeon is scary. To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it. Briefly, I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers, like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow, I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that? Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Maybe he won't kill her. They're such good friends. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort, though. Not the bad sort of awkward, a kind of pleasant awkwardness. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. When he tries, and he did not try. Oh my god, that mouse painting. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for this 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though.
I mean, I wouldn't accept licorice jellies either.
She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Uh-oh, she knows about you, Luke. Run.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? The fact that he's a murderer and he has a sex dungeon? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels, yet so right. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself, like that mouse painting. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone like Ashton. Ashton's probably at Salem Well by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Oh my god, what if Ashton shows up and he gets super jelly and he's like, "No, Rebecca, you're going home with me." And they finally have some requited lovemaking. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him.
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decorations they have here, like the keys and the bicycles and whatever that thing is over there. Previous to that, he has griped about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper-class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, Your Majesty. Figures he'd lose patience soon, having already grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us. Ooh.
Okay. What the hell is that? I gotta look that up. Hang on. Well, that was interesting. Apparently it means body off Baywatch. Which I don't understand how it comes to that. It's a comment made to someone with a really, really nice body, but a very unfortunate face. I guess that's also, Butterface? Body is hot, but the face. So.
Bobfoot. Do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face?
Yes, exactly. Butterface.
True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here.
For whatever reason, that puts an end to that talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book and is now poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him to at least send a message? I mean, check if I were home. Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? He looks like he's 20. Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood? Probably.
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, all right? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy.
He paid for your dinner. You are to entertain him.
Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
Exactly.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, them out on a date.
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know.
Love it. He's an asshole, but, hilarious at times.
Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Bring back the child. The child can explain everything. What is up with that? Espresso? That's an odd way to spell espresso. Anyway.
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
The words come out with more force than I've intended. By the time I realize my slip-up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. Heat slowly crawls up in my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I've flipped a switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message for him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go after him?
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Bravo! I mean, seriously, even those who haven't tied the knot, it's like they're stuck in their little couple bubble. The couple bubble. It's really hard to get through that couple bubble.
Don't be ridiculous! Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
I mean, you don't have to spend every second. I always encourage the people that I dated to go and spend time with just their friends. I think it's important. You don't always have to do everything as a couple. You need to do things separately and like hang out with your own friends. It's important for them. It's important for yourself.
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with.
Bravo, dude.
Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move.
Seriously.
Nor do I hers.
Stop using that word.
Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you?
Relationship burnout, right?
Or putting everything you have aside to please them? To have your whole world revolve around one person?
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else?
You want an H-type relationship, not an A-type relationship, right?
Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
How many relationships have you had, Rebecca?
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you?
My god, this is like someone who has not been in a relationship.
Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for a dashing Prince Charming?
Who wears a weird fur coat.
What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said.
Oh, she's thinking it.
And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I've had with... What? You haven't had... 17 years that she's been pining for Ash. My goodness. Yeah, his 7 actual relationship years as opposed to your 17 friendship but wanting more years with Ashton. Wow. It's laughable he thinks those two things are even comparable. Or that you even think they're not. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side. I've always endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. When he realizes what exactly he needs, I'll be right there for him, waiting. No matter what this man, this complete stranger says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him and his wife. And yet.
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10.
Oh, so much worse.
20.
Ah! His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I've ever been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, and as expected, he ridicules it. Restrained, low and rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much even for him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to him.
Lordy bullocks, this is just brilliant. Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, and when it subsides, what he has for me are more words, scathing, each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong. Okay, you could at least stop laughing and just, like, give her some advice.
Is everything you said how you plan to act, if that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
I mean, why don't you want to have someone on a string on the side, right?
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
It's like, they'll always be there, at least, right? Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away. focusing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won. Until he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though, hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realize that if this happened minutes before, I'd have already an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. But the anger is there, ringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came in between us, I've always been the one there. Oh boy. I mean, everyone's may have possibly been in a similar situation at some point in time, right? Not pleasant. Not pleasant. Poor Rebecca. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? Eventually, I will have my reward. I've always been sure of it, and that one day, you'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. I mean, it's not... Is it an honest friendship at that point? If she's only friends with him, because that's as close as she can get to him? And she really needs to be like, hey, you wanna, stuff, and get it over with. And then decide, if he says no, what she wants to do, walk away, or just stay as just friends, or, so she can move on with her life. She needs to be able to move on with her life instead of keeping this weird fantasy. Now I struggle to find the words. Well, crap, I don't know. Oh, what right do you have? He doesn't like that. How dare he, though? How dare he just waltz in and act like he can do as he pleases, say what he wants, or trample over other people's feelings? He doesn't know anything about me or Ashton. We've only met a few days ago, and yet he acts like we've been acquainted for years. He hasn't even met Ash. How can he say those things about him? The longer I hear this tirade, the more it sounds like he's pulling it out of his arse, out of his some misguided thinking he's better than anyone in this whole bloody city. What a pompous Bahid? Gods, I gotta look that up, hold on. Alright, I looked it up. A person with a chubby face. Okay. A pompous, chubby face. Normally, I'll ignore people like him. He doesn't deserve a single second of my day, but a small voice at the back of my head protests at the idea of simply leaving things here. I refuse to let this go until I've said my piece and defended myself. Those aren't merely months of harboring feelings for someone he's scoffing at. They're made of years, all of it built upon memories we've had from childhood.
What right do you have to tell me that?
None whatsoever, Daisy. But did you assume I haven't seen that before? Those longing looks. The face of someone who wants something but has yet to get it? Give me a little credit here, woman. I'm not daft, nor am I blind to your silly little feelings. It's plastered all over your face anyway. I didn't even need to try.
A pause comes after while I wait for him to add to that. He doesn't, but briefly a wistful expression spreads across his face. Surprisingly gentle, as if remembering an old memory from once upon a time or something he has constantly seen in the mirror. It's gone in the next second. Then he turns his attention on a box beside him. For the next few minutes, he contents himself with making a fuss out of the paper napkins inside, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent before crumbling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. I allow it to go on for a little while before I interrupt him. I am not yet done.
somehow that's reason enough for you.
Not at all. In fact, you didn't even need to stay here and listen to me ramble about it. Go on, walk away, the door's wide open, if you wish to be done with this mindless topic. You certainly won't hear me complaining if we just drop this now. I, for one, am very eager to be done with this stupid nonsense about your man and your...
You don't know me.
He pauses in the middle of folding another paper napkin into an airplane and glances up at me.
I'm quite sure we've already established that, Daisy. But go ahead.
And you know not a single thing about him.
That too is true. Are you going anywhere with this?
We've always been together since we were children. We've been friends for a long time. We know each other better than anyone. Compared to those 7 measly years you're so proud of, we've been with each other for almost a lifetime.
Not quite. Add a few more years, maybe? It does sound romantic when you put it that way, doesn't it? Not many people get to have someone with them that long. That's what you have going for you, isn't it? Cute years playing hide and seek, going to school together, and sharing lunchboxes? Did he also protect you from bullies? I bet my socks he did. Lucky, I don't even remember anyone from my old neighborhood. Well, except for that one Nancy who spat his drink in my face years ago. You better pray I don't find him.
So, you're just going to call it that? Despite what I told you, you're just going to call it an obsession?
Isn't it?
Of course it isn't. Didn't I already tell you?
Did it ever cross your mind how your man would feel about all this?
You think I've never thought of that? Listen here, you.
Or were you expecting he'll simply feel the same all because of some shared history you have? Because fun fact, Daisy, feelings change and people most definitely also change with time.
So very, very, very true. So very painfully true. For better or worse, everything changes.
Whoever that person was 10 or 20 years ago, whatever idea you have of them floating inside your head, they won't be the same now.
What are you trying to get at?
Suppose that man of yours wants something else for himself. What if he never returns your feelings, the way you so desperately want him to?
That's not going to...
Are you going to beg? Tell him to choose you instead? Or are you going to lash out at the poor woman or man who happened to catch your man's attention?
My voice falters. His eyes focus on me, the pieces of paper he's been folding earlier now left forgotten in the space between us, while he waits for my response. However, I can't give him one. He's already aware of that, and it shows in his face when his lips form a lopsided smirk. How can I, when I've had my suspicions all along? Gods, maybe this is just exactly what Rebecca needed, to hear this. One that rears its ugly head every time I simply see the two of them in the same room. I hit the button again.
Oh, I hit a nerve, didn't I?
That's none of your business.
It's true, though. The poor bloke doesn't have any obligation to return your precious feelings, nor can you force him to. That wouldn't be right.
Indeed. This is why she either needs to confront him or move on.
If you're just going to mock me, we might as well sew your bloody mouth shut this instant.
Now, no need to get violent. But come on, 20 years? Gordon, Bennett, if nothing's happening past that mark, you might as well consider your options, woman. Even I wouldn't last that long.
Stop it.
One of these days, I'd like to meet the guy and share a few drinks with him, just to give the poor bloke a break from you. And probably see how dense he really is.
Yeah, that's going a little too far, Luke.
I mean, a lovely woman like you chasing after him, and he doesn't give a shite? That's new.
Or he has the same feelings and doesn't think she feels the same way. I don't know.
It'll be on me, don't worry.
But now he's developed feelings for Isabella.
I said stop it! I don't want to hear a word of it anymore!
The chair scrapes the floor as I abruptly push away from our table to stand. Looming over him with the most piercing glower I can summon, anger undeterred by my own ragged breathing and clenched fists. Looking down at him in the same manner he did to me throughout this chat. The only way I can keep my pride intact in front of him and the other people watching the sudden scene unfold. I hate this man. I hate the fact that he can unsettle me like this, turning everything around what I've believed in with his mere words alone, although she's had her doubts. Oh my god, everyone in this room is faceless as well. What's more awful? It's how easily those can replace the very ideas I hold dear to me. Not because I am easily swayed, but because in each of them I'm aware there's a sliver of truth. Minutes pass in quiet tension. Some of the diners have already lost interest in the commotion, return to their meals. A waiter serves our food soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table, unaware. But before I can take a seat, Luke mutters something. The words spoken in the same biting tone he has assumed since earlier. Despite my opinion of the man, I stop to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
He spears a piece of his food, pops it into his mouth, and that's it. With that, however, he leaves another challenge in the air. Another question. One whole day with this man, and I still can't figure out what his deal is. This time, I don't rise up to it. Doing so means facing a different set of truths I'm not yet ready to face. Bitter truths. Those are for me to ponder on later, not in front of these people or him. His loathsome face and his sneer are the last things I'd ever want to see if that introspection ever happens. But for all this, I can't bring myself to think of him as someone wholly despicable. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow, we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house, just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures at a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges minutes after, carrying a bouquet of daffodils with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous ones, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me. That's a bad background noise. And much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutters lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stops short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashton's neat script lines its surface. Dropped by earlier. You weren't around. Any ideas where Scaredy Cat is? I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions. LPD stuff. Something about her dead co-workers. What? Anyway, let me know how the two of you have been doing. I'll see you later, Ash. The message he left, short and straight to the point, but not without the underlying hint of friendship. He's looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about LAPD's investigation of her co-worker's death, but ends its formal tone by checking on me. Us. Any other day, the former part of the message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet, this time, only guilt fills me, and my eyes briefly shifts towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
Have I always been like this?
This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after that dinner. If I didn't catch him here, invite him to that party like I've planned. There's time, and he's still probably awake at around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I've had the time to think this through, it'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The knob twists open with much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman in the mansion to worry about. October 28th, Friday. Well, next time we might see the end of Rebecca's chapter.